Hello, my name is Chase Voldase, and this is my presentation entitled Rideshare and For-Hire Vehicle Comparison. Now, what is the topic? As you may have guessed, the topic for this presentation is a comparison between major rideshare services, such as Uber and Lyft, and for-hire vehicle services, such as taxis and limousines. The main two that we'll be focusing on are Ubers and taxis. The categories that we'll be examining include dispatch trips annually and monthly, revenue share, and market share. An examination of the impact rideshare services have had on the automotive industry will be gleaned by the viewer after the presentation has concluded. Now, why research this topic? Well, I believe that this topic is worth researching because the presented information showcases a shift in the automotive industry. As our society becomes more technologically dependent, a lot of the old ways of conducting business have been replaced through more digital avenues. This has a long-standing implication for various businesses, such as taxis. And as we will see throughout the presentation, we will notice the shrinking market of taxis and the growing market for rideshare services. Now, what questions are we trying to answer? Here are two that I have brought forth. One, how has the introduction of rideshare services affected other sectors of the automotive industry? And two, what is the current status of the industry within rideshare services and for hire vehicle services? What story do I want to tell? The story I've created is divided into three parts. The first part will be an examination of rideshare and taxi services in the market. The second, a direct comparison between the two services. And the third, a look into the future as to the projected value for the two services. From this, viewers will be able to develop a quick knowledge of the two platforms, their influence on one another, and what can be expected in the future. And from that, let us begin. Our first graph is a brief look at the Uber dispatches per base within New York City within the year 2015. As you can see, the graph showcases the daily dispatches between January and February within 2015. I chose to present this graph as a brief look into the introduction of Uber within the world and a comparison between this and our next slide, which showcases the rideshare of dispatch trips for rideshare services monthly and annually. As we can see, Uber carries a clear lead over other services, while Lyft also has a sizable percentage. Lesser-known services such as Juno and Via are only active in major cities and thus only comprise a small percent of the whole. Our next slide showcases the for hire vehicle dispatch trips per month. From this, we can see that taxi has a clear lead with green cab and electric car service being much smaller in comparison. Other services are generally for specific circumstances, such as black car and delivery services and limousines, and thus only make up a small percentage. Now, here is a bar graph comparing annual dispatch trips of both for hire vehicle services and rideshare services presented as a collective. The introduction of rideshare services has created a significant change in the consumer market, with rideshare services having significant control of the market starting around 2017 and the yellow taxi service continuing to diminish. Now, here is a bar graph timeline showcasing the revenue of for hire vehicle and rideshare services. As we can see, the most famous rideshare service, Uber, overtook the commonly used service of yellow taxis in 2018, which it has continued to maintain as yellow taxis have continued to diminish in use. Here is also a bar graph showcasing the market share of rideshare and for hire vehicle services within the year 2019. As we can see, Uber has about 50% of the market share, while Yellow Taxi has diminished to around 25%. The remaining 25% is comprised of other rideshare services, such as Lyft. Finally, here is a look into the future for the potential market size of each category post 2019. In this graph is showcased the potential market for rideshare services, delivery, rental, and for hire vehicle services. Ride-sharing has become the prime means of travel throughout cities in comparison to other services, and that will continue to be the case in the future. And finally, here is a graphic examining the potential growth of Uber by projected market share increases. Depending on what Uber wishes to do, it is possible that they will increase their market by 25% if they expand at a growth if their growth expands at a rate of 0.05 each year. Finally, here are two questions for reflection on the topic. The first, how have rideshare services impacted your use of transportation? Have you relied less on traditional avenues such as taxis, car ownership? And number two, do you believe that the projected paths of growth will continue? If so, will for hire vehicle services soon become obsolete, or is there a way for them to compete and increase their market share? And with that, the presentation has come to a close. Thank you.